Hi everyone, welcome to Life, Love and the Pursuit of Real Estate / motorbikes today. I'm very blessed to have Jed Metcher here, and he is a very good mate and a work colleague of a good friend of mine called Travis Smits in the air conditioning business. And over lunch one day with Travis recently, we spoke about people that we admired, and Trav made a comment about Jed. And when you hear Jed's story, we thought it might be good to relay this story in relation to tenacity, endeavour, application and outcome. So for those of you that are in the business world, you should get a lot out of this interview. For those of you that are in the motorbike world, you should get a lot out of this interview too, or any sporting genre. So Jed, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, mate. Jed was the 2011 Superstock 600 world champion bike rider. And one of the things that you'll find is that he has a desire and an application to help others. So what got him to the table, aside from his prowess and his good looks, is the fact that he runs a mentor program or mentorship program for young bike riders who are coming up. So we'll probably speak about one of them, or maybe not necessarily by name, but just give you some ideas of what Jed does to actually help them out. So, mate, there again, thanks for your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Now, so you're 27?
29.
29, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tell people I'm 27.
Okay. Now, and you got a partner?
Yeah, partner,
And you're building your first house?
Yeah, almost there. About a month away.
Fantastic.
From moving in.
Okay, that's good. So, when you and I were prepping before this interview, because I hadn't met Jed up until today, so one of the things is you'll find that he's got a very, very calm disposition. So he's probably very outcome focused. And he just told me something that blew me away, is that he now has taken on an air conditioning apprentice at his age, after having quite a few accolades and doing mentor programs for other people. He's taking up an apprenticeship in the air conditioning business. So he's in his first year. So it's like you're a probie now.
Yeah, it's been a fairly, wouldn't say steep learning curve, but I've had to go from having a lot of respect from a lot of people there to going down to digging holes and moving pipe for someone that doesn't really care what I'm doing. So,
yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
Now, you started riding bikes at 5?
Yep.
Okay. And then you started road racing at 10?
Yep.
Right, okay. Now, so as I just explained to you about my son Jacob when he got on his first motorbike at 3.5, when we speak, and this is probably I'm going about this interview a little bit differently, but when you spoke about the fear thing before,
yep,
let's talk about that. Tell me how that application of cutting off fear when you ride. Tell me, remember what we just said?
Yeah.
Cover that with me. Tell me, how do you get your fear and compartmentalise it? What do you do with it?
You know what? It was something that I didn't realise I was doing until later on. And also when I started coaching people, I didn't realise I could do it until I experienced it happening to other people. So
yeah, cool.
People at an older age obviously have responsibilities. They've got experience, all that stuff. Fear is a massive control thing for them, you know. So to go fast on a motorbike, you need to take risk, and the risk is you're going to get hurt. And so fear is pretty much the main thing. As a young guy racing, I didn't have that, you know.
I have a saying, fear is good because it motivates me, but doubt is bad.
Exactly, yeah. I think doubt is something that you mull on, you know. Yeah. Fear is something that for me, there was always a fear of getting injured, but to be able to close it out, I think was a special part of what got me to where I was.
So how do you do that? By practicing more at your art? How do you for someone that's watching this,
yeah,
and they go, yeah, but it's easy to say, because even like in the real estate game, which has been my background, people talk about fear, and there's all these speakers and spruikers on YouTube about fear, but it's easy to say get fear and compartmentalise it.
Yeah. I think you're spot on with what you said there. It's knowing in your own ability, and the only way to know in your own ability that you're that good at it is to do something constantly, you know. So repetition is
the mother of skill.
And because I learned to ride motorbikes fast from such a young age,
was that pushed on by your dad?
not pushed on, but it was
Not,
yeah, I loved it.
Educated by
yeah.
that.
My old man he raced motorbikes. He's a superstar with his hands. He made my career what it was. So he pretty much put the motorbike in front of me, and I just loved it.
And you're also doing it together too, you see.
Yeah, we were doing it together. Yeah, and because I learned all those skills at such a young age. All those skills were just, they were natural, you know. All that stuff happened, so I could actually think at maybe a more technical level in a way that I didn't have to think.
Yeah.
I didn't have to think I need to pick up the throttle here, I need to brake here, do those things. I was thinking about all the tertiary stuff like grip level, how can I go faster there, what's the guy doing in front of me, all those things. So you learn that stuff from a young age, and it becomes second nature. And then
intuition's based on experience for me.
Yeah,
we said before. So therefore, the more you rode, not just the better you got, but the more understanding you had.
Yeah, and you trusted in your own abilities that much that fear wasn't an issue anymore. It was just a byproduct of going fast, but it wasn't. It could be switched off. You know, like I'd have a crash as a young kid, and after that crash, you're like, oh, you know, that hurt. Yeah, but as soon as you got back on the bike, and you got back into what you knew you could do, is gone.
So what's the worst accident that you've had?
Worst accident I've had, I had a fella I was slipstreaming, so high speed, about maybe 260 or so, and the guy's bike broke down, and I had almost no time to miss him, almost got to the left-hand side, touched his, I believe, like his back fairing or something, slammed on my front brake, flipped me over, broke 5 metatarsals in my foot and my tib fib, and it tore a big hole in my calf. So that was all on the same leg. The bike caught up to me, did a fair bit of damage. And yeah, you know what? It's a perfect example because about 2.5 months later, I was on crutches. I entered the first Australian Superbike round that I'd done on a Superbike, and actually won a race that weekend. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, tell me that then. So it's 8 weeks. You've had an accident.
Yeah.
You ripped a big hole in your leg. 5 broken bones in your foot.
Yeah.
So when you got on the bike, were you still in bandages or plaster or anything?
Not in plaster. I was in the moon boot, but with the motorcycle racing boots being so rigid, the bones were pretty much healed. I got it X-rayed and passed and all that stuff, but tendons and everything was still a little bit hard to move. I was still on crutches.
Did you know you were going to win when you got on the bike?
To be honest, no. It was about proving to myself that I could get back out there, you know. Okay. And I got a little bit lucky with the weather conditions were a bit dodgy, so the overall fastest lap times of the guys that were fully fit just backed off a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And that gave me the opportunity. It sort of like the spark came when I realised that I was there to win the race towards the end. The risk level, I just took that little bit extra risk, and that's the same thing because I had that experience prior. I knew in my own abilities, if I was there, I could win. So even with that injury, I shut the injury out. Yeah. All the issues were gone, and just.
Do you weigh up your competition when you go to ride? Let's say, for instance, if I am looking at a property, for instance, or I'm doing some training, I generally will do an analysis on everybody. Right? It's like a CSI thing. Yeah. So I do a profile on who I'm going to compete with, or who I'm dealing with as far as the seminars go. Do you look at all that? Do you do
100%. 100%.
And so style.
Not just the people either, also the machines, because you've got differences in horsepower, you've got differences in where the bikes make the power. You know, you've got the Ducati with a V-twin's really good off the bottom. If you've got someone like riding someone that is on a V-twin and they've got that ability to punch off the turn, you want to try to hold them up in the middle of the turn so they don't drive around the outside of you. So you definitely research is I think to be successful in anything you have to understand all the parameters. You know, you can't just go out there and hope. I think planning for a race meeting, planning for anything in life is the most important thing for success, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. Okay, so on that score, then you've travelled the world, you've ridden in plenty of races. The worst accident you've had, we've just spoken about.
Yeah.
So tell me what happens when you've started up the mentor program, which I want to talk about in a minute. But what happens in the transition of being at not the height of your career, but well respected, considered proficient in a sport that's not necessarily all that well recognised. It's not at that Valentino
I wouldn't
Rossi
call it
type.
AFL footy sort of level.
Yeah, right. So, but you've been Italy, France, Germany. You've been all over the place.
Yeah.
You were in the Russian team for a while.
Yeah.
What happens in the transition of realising the reality that some parts of your life are over in that area when you're moving forward? What happens run me through how that works, because you've when Travis, and I'll tell you why I asked you that. When Travis spoke to me, he told me that you'd started up an apprenticeship.
Yep.
And that you're obviously looking at settling. So that's a very different mind structure than being a full-time bike rider.
100%, for sure.
Right?
For sure,
so you're going through a transition now. So how do you cope with what you think the definition of you is, or is the definition of you always changing?
That's a good question. I think the transition, I went through phases with it. So it was shattering at some points.
Yeah.
But I also didn't sit around for very long and mull on it, I think
What's very long? Are we talking hours, days, weeks?
You know what? It happened I'd go and watch a race meeting and I'd go, you know what? This sucks. I'm not out there, But I think I've always, and it's come from my dad's work ethic, like you don't sit around and just say either, this sucks. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I want to be there. I'm not there. I'm just going to sit here and whinge about it. I dug deep straight away. I love helping people. I love helping, especially the young guys, with the business that we started with my business partner in 2013.
You can tell us about that in a minute.
Yeah, it just organically pushed me into that area where I started helping young guys, Right. And I got heaps out of that. Like I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about teaching people. I learned a lot about what we just talked about, of learning things when you're young. They become natural, and then actually teaching them is really, really difficult. So I did a lot of research on how people learn and how, everyone learns so differently visually. Sometimes people will learn.
Sometimes it's an academic process, and sometimes it's not.
Exactly. Yeah. There's 3-4 different ways people learn, and that opened my eyes to our motorcycle racing industry, but also psychologically how people, confident sports people, whether they're the best player in the world, if they're confident, sometimes they're superstars, and then some of the tennis players, for example, are good. When who's our bad boy now at the moment? Kyrgios, when he's playing good and he's happy, he's a freak, And then when he's upset and he's a bit down on confidence, he loses his head altogether. That interests me a lot too, having because motorcycle racing is dangerous just as a core sport. If you're not confident in your own abilities, the lap times you will struggle. It doesn't matter if you're on the best motorcycle in the world. So that's very interesting.
Well, you know what? We can talk about that curious thing. Is just a little bit more, not about him in particular, but about Roger Federer. I've been doing a little bit of reading about Roger, and anyone at any level of business needs a coach, or any sport needs a coach. Even Federer has a coach, and the situation with Roger, from what I can tell, is in doing my review of him, what I did is, I'm not a huge tennis fan, but I looked at some people, and people always complimented him on his calm disposition. Very rarely does he get rattled. He cries when he wins. So I thought I'll do some investigating and see. When you go back into his lineage, he was brutal. He was abusive.
Really?
He was hot-tempered. And I'm looking at old footage going, this can't be the same guy. And he went through a complete metamorphosis, a complete transition. He went from being a shitty brat to being one of the world's gentlemen.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, going back some time ago, I was in the area where he was being interviewed, right? I'm standing at the back and I'm listening. He's so congenial and so warming. That's what makes him brilliant. And what I think he's done, and I'm only surmising now, but he's been able to channel that anger into outcome.
100%, yeah.
That's what he's done. He's channeled it. But he's realised that for him to grow with that, there's a few things he needs to do. He needs a coach, and he changes them fairly regularly.
Yeah.
He's got a different taint. He networks really, really well. And aside from people like Omega and I giving him bloody millions and millions of dollars, the reality there is that he's now at a level where he now has an understanding of himself that very, very few people have. So I'm interested in that with you, right? So when you're at your darkest, not in darkest days, but at 29, you may have had some dark days and you may not have had any, right? You can be fortunate either way. But what I have found is that the network of people that we mix, and what you and I are doing today, this is networking pretty much, right? What happens now is if this mentor program's got some legs, so how does that work? Do you charge for that?
Yeah. So just your daily, pretty much most of my work that I do is on track at race meetings.
Right.
Everything prior is normally just via, phone calls, emails, mental prep mainly. I don't, so I'm an apprentice, so I don't have a great deal of time at the moment, but...
you can say shitload of time.
Yeah, shitload of time. But the race meetings are where I do, 90% of the work.
Okay.
And that, especially with young guys, I think in that situation, the pressure cooker, once they're on track and they've got to perform, that's when you need to try to control emotions and just give them a bit of guidance, because you would know as having kids, young kids often it's that unknown that we spoke about earlier. If you don't know what's about to happen, it can be daunting, So
that's why the anxiety thing is, that's the as I said to you, that's the unknown.
The
anxiety is based on the premise that you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. And that's
the fear,
I think that's
or the doubt of the unknown.
That's right. That's what me providing that experience level helps the young guys a lot, and also helps the older guys. Like we talked about Trav, I've coached Trav.
Yeah.
He wants to be faster. He wants to go faster on a motorbike, but he doesn't want to take all the risk that maybe a young guy would, So I try to relay the information on how to do it safely but still go fast, which is tough. It's actually harder than teaching a young guy to go fast, because the young guy's going to go out there and do exactly what you say. Trav's going to question, I wonder if this guy actually knows what he's talking about. So
I get it, because doubt does creep in as you get older. So it's actually handling that as you go.
That's it.
So getting back to this mentor program, tell me sort of how it started. What was the initiating thought process or the initiating person where you said, I think I can add value?
Yep.
And this is going to be the new me?
Yeah. So it was probably started off with the older guys, coaching through my business, understanding that the information, I wanted to go out there and make people fast, straight away. But it was hard for me to relay that information because I'd learnt it just completely organically. I hadn't been coached. I hadn't been... talked through it slowly. I hadn't really reviewed my own riding abilities, and then I went and tried to coach these guys, and I was like, oh wow, I actually was stuck for words in a few situations. I was like, I don't know how to do this, and that was about 5-6 years ago, and that sparked me learning on the how people learn and researching that stuff, and then I started working with young guys, and I realized if you got the information across in the right way, bang, they go faster, So that pretty much was the situation.
So is that personality based? So do you taper what you talk about?
100%, yeah. It's ability and personality.
So when you meet someone initially, do you weigh them up?
Yeah, definitely.
So you profile them like we spoke about before?
100%. Because if you've got a really shy kid and you tell them straight away, like, you've got to go faster here, and you give them no background story, sometimes they'll be a bit hesitant. Or you might find like one of the young kids that I'm working with at the moment, Harry Curry, I've just sent him overseas to do his first international event. He got a podium yesterday. He got third position, so in his first race over there.
Good.
Harry was the sort of kid that it just was instant. I'd give him some information. He'd literally put his helmet on. He'd go out there and he'd just try it, no matter how dangerous it was, So you've got kids like that, and then you've got kids that are a bit more hesitant, and you need to maybe give them a bit more explanation, give them a bit more time. So
what makes, because this interview is generally encompassing a few things, but what makes a great bike rider? If I asked you what the 3 top qualities are of a championship bike rider, when you at your peak at 2011,
yeah,
right, and you won that race, you might want to tell them about Actually, tell us about the race.
Yeah.
And then tell
the
us
wild
what
card.
makes what do you think the three qualities of a championship bike rider are?
Oh, you know what? I think a real championship motorbike race has to be a little bit dumb. You know, you've got to be able to take a little bit of risk without a lot of thought process. But I think the main thing for me personally was me and my relationship with my dad. We worked hard at it. You know, I don't think I was the kid that turned up like Valentino Rossi and had the most talent in the world. You know.
He can ride.
Yeah, he was just a superstar, and he also had a really good pathway to get where he did.
Yeah.
But I think hard work was the one thing that paid off for me. You know, like I went out. Me and Dad did everything the hard way when we were racing in Australia, and when I went to Europe, I was happy to do the hard yards. You know, I was helping the boys pack up after I was.
So you're racing and basically being your own servant.
Well, I didn't have to be, you know. It was that situation where the team were there to support me, but I loved being involved.
How many in the team?
That year, when it varies from team to team, obviously, but you've got maybe 2 mechanics, a crew chief, and a suspension tech for one rider, and then you might have 2 riders. So, talking 12 people or so.
That's a few.
Yeah, per team. Yeah. But yeah, I think getting back to the 3 things, definitely perseverance, like hard work. Yeah, that's got to be at the forefront. I think with road racing, injury management is massive. Like you've got to be smart. You can't just be out there willy-nilly, not training, not being flexible, not looking after yourself. That's massive, you know.
Yeah.
And then the mental approach is
fitness is the second one.
Yeah. And your mental approach is massive because it's a high-risk sport. So if you're not confident in yourself, or you're not confident in someone in the team, or you're not confident in the bike, that if that package doesn't work, you won't get a result. It's huge.
So in that, so therefore, on that third one, you've got to say the communication is probably part of that as a substructure to that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So you've got to be able to articulate and communicate.
Yeah. So that's probably, communication is massive in a race team, yeah.
Do you need to really understand the mechanics of the bike, or you just need to know how it works?
Yeah, you need to you don't need to understand the science and mechanics behind it as a rider, as a young guy. It's actually better not to, because if you start to, like, your brain only has so much space to process something when you're in a high pressure situation, and race weekends are high pressure situations, even when you're going okay, you know. So if you've got an understanding, and it's probably a little bit of a downfall for me as well now, because I'm been running a business in the industry. I'm very technically minded, and I can delve really deep into that stuff, and then that takes your brain power away from actually performing. And I think, like I said, you've got to be. It's not that you've got to be a little bit dumb, but you've got to be a little bit silly in a way that if you're being too smart in road racing, often that will bring in that fear factor, you know, or the doubt, you know. So if you're a little bit crazy and you're in there, you're having fun, you're just going out and you're a bit loose, a lot of time the riders are really fast, like in that mind state. So that, I think that's a really important part of the racing as well.
All right, let me ask you this now. So therefore, when you were riding at your peak, how much influence did your dad have on you in relation to, and forget the bike stuff, but the parent thing and the mate thing? How much influence did he have on you?
Oh,
you mentioned him a lot today.
Yeah, he was massive. He pretty much made my career. He made me the person I was. He made me be able to, you know, not go down the path of being like a bit of a spoiled kid, you know, because it was always dig deep, you know, work hard. Life's not easy. Motorbike racing isn't easy. So he always gave me that. He didn't drill me about it, but it was always like, if you don't work hard, you probably won't get to where you want to be. Yeah. So yeah, he was amazing in that way. He was he was probably a little bit maybe had the blinkers on a little bit with the racing too. Like we focused so much on racing that maybe life wasn't that important. And as we spoke about, I bought that house not long ago based on the fact that I think my racing career ended and I said, holy, I don't know anything about life. Yeah, it's exciting now. Talking to, you've probably heard from Trav, like we're building up the team. And
yes,
so this is a really exciting part of my life now. I did that 4 years of hard saving and to buy the house, sort of push the racing to the side. And I learned a lot about life in that time period too.
Yeah.
And it made me realise, that...
So what type of racing are you going to be doing now?
So racing Australian Superbike.
Right. Okay, so how many people are at your age in that now, in that sport?
Oh, there's a fair few
so
my age.
There are normally 20s, 30s, any 40s?
Yeah, there's Troy Bayliss, you might have heard.
Of course,
Troy's still racing. I think he might have turned 50 the other day. He's still really, really fast. Yeah, raced him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He actually beat us. So, yeah, we've got to get on top of that. But he's still got a lot of support from Ducati in Italy. So,
yes, yeah.
So, and he's a really fit, determined,
he's very well
incredible
admired.
man. Yeah.
Like really well admired.
He's a superstar and also so down to earth for someone that's achieved what he's achieved. He's an amazing bloke.
And your dad's still following you around?
Dad's still the crew chief. He's spinning the spanners, doing the hard yards, and he loves it. Back in the day when we were coming through, it was all focus and all like intense and pretty full on. And now you can see Dad's out chatting with everyone, telling stories about Europe, and he loves being back at the track. Yeah, so it's an awesome relationship that we have, and for him to be there for me all the time makes me confident as a person as well.
Yeah, I think that mentorship thing that you're doing, your dad's been doing it for you.
That's right.
So therefore, it's just like an extension.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So on the score, you have this guy Harry now. He got a podium finish.
Yeah.
Right, which is great. So as I said, congratulations. That must make you feel good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right. So therefore, in relation to say for you spoke highly of him. If I said how much does he have natural ability and how much is engineered by hard work, what would you say?
He's a bit of 50-50. He's a superstar. Like I said, he's got that ability to, when you relay information to him, he just goes out there and gives it a go. He doesn't have the fear factor or any of that, and he will just get out there and just give it a go straight away. It was probably one of the biggest learning curves I've had working with him last year all year, because he was almost a complete opposite to me, where I was the sort of kid that worked hard and dug deep. If things didn't go well, I'd get back to the pits and I'd be like, we've got to figure this out. I don't know what's wrong. We need to find someone to help. Harry, it's quite a special situation where he got a pole position at the start of last year. So he started at this high confidence level. And then we had a few little downs and ups and downs and ups. And every time we had a little down, he'd actually come in and cry. So he's a 14-year-old kid. And for me, that was a new experience, because I had to understand how to coach and mentor this kid mentally and not worry about the bike at all. So I learned a lot of things about...
it's probably got nothing to do with the bike.
No, nothing to do with the bike. Nothing to do with the bike. Yeah. I could see in his eyes before he went out a few times, if he didn't have that spark and that ready to kill sort of look in his eyes when he put his helmet on, I knew we were going to have the waterworks when he come back in. So it was awesome for my mentoring business working with Harry last year, because I got to work with someone completely opposite to me, where if things didn't go well, the toys went out of the cot, So it was pretty special to work with him.
Well, as a coach, then, you've made a comment that really is the question of the day, and that is that how do we make sure that every time we speak to someone that we love or nurture or mentor, how do we get that spark? How do we make sure that we can envelop that quick? And that's the job that I find the hardest for me in the people that I look after. And I've got a few people I work with, and one of them in particular, he may be flat, but he has the ability to turn himself around in like 5 minutes. Now, he credits me for that, but it's in him innately.
Yeah, okay.
All right? And although I'm a bit rambunctious and a bit loud and all that sort of stuff, he's got it. So I don't find it hard for me to tweak it in him.
Yeah.
Because I always go, if you're feeling shit about this, imagine if we get that done, what we're going to be like here. So I always paint the forward picture, and then I work back. It's like doing a reverse feasibility on a development.
Right?
So I start at the end, and then I work back. And I found, I don't know if that helps you at all, but I found that for me is a very good way of going. So I might not necessarily say to someone like Harry, listen, we're going to win all these awards and all these trophies and we're going to make all this money. But I might say, if I can get you to get a boner out of riding your bike, the rest is going to be easy.
Yeah. I think you've nailed it there, really.
Yeah.
If you can install confidence in someone
and
through
the exhilaration and the benefit of outcome, because, there's a lot of sayings, and one of them is it's the journey, not the destination that matters. I don't know about that. I think it could be a bit of both. But the one thing that I do love doing is the prep. As we said before, if my prep is good, I already know my outcome pretty much.
Yeah.
Even if it might not, I've done some jobs and I recently just did a talk for a group here in Melbourne, and I knew the day before, I said to Mary, I'm going to rock tomorrow. I just knew because my prep was good.
Yeah.
Because everything fell in line, and the people that I was working for were very articulate in what they wanted as an outcome. So I found it easy.
Yeah.
Right. So I got there and they said to me, they gave me a very nice referral and said, listen, you completely did a shift in momentum in that room when you started. It was just like a paradigm shift the whole room. Because I'd heard the guy before, and I sort of I didn't go in, and start off with rant and rave, but I wanted to make an impact immediately. So I grabbed their attention. And that's what I find. But I knew that talk was over for me before I did it.
The prep was
and that's what I found, and even from mentoring, if I profile the people I'm mentoring enough and really look at them like you analyse Harry's personality, once you have an understanding of that,
that's the key.
You'll notice most people I know are pure of heart. And if you believe that you want to leave someone better off for having dealt with you, your attitude with the mentor program is good. And
that's right.
You may find that, when you get momentum, you don't have to have 10 rock stars on your mentorship program for you to feel good.
Yeah, that's
10 would be nice, though.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But you might find that if you can build character before brilliance,
that's
then
the
you're
key.
right.
Yeah,
and that's what I've found. If I can build character in someone before brilliance, and character is always determined by actions, not by this. Then I go, okay, cool. I've got someone that's worthy here.
Yeah, so I think in that way, you're spot on, 100%. And the way that it worked with Harry is that obviously he saw me as someone that had success.
Yeah.
So he was all ears straight away, And then what we did, we just built confidence in his own ability, So I pretty much had a few talks with him each time, and we talked about how he could structure the races, and then that gave him the confidence in himself. Okay, it's not unknown anymore.
Yes,
and sometimes I had to tell him to harden up. Like had to just be like, Harry, look, you've actually he might have finished 5th, and he wanted to win, and he'd come in and the waterworks and that, and then he'd be sitting on the bike before the next race, and I'd pretty much have to say to him, look, you've got the ability, you've been there, you've done it. It's a race. You need to structure it so you're calm and just give him the information that will make him happy.
Him getting emotional, I actually see as a bonus.
Yeah.
Right, because if you can channel that energy, right? Excuse me with my nose, this cold's killing me here. But if you can channel that emotional energy into drive and ambition, the game's very, very different. Now, do you have a website for your mentorship program?
We've got metchermotorsport.com.au.
I'll put that up, John. Yeah.
And that's all just coming together at the moment. So we've just launched that, and
we'll stick that up on the video.
Yeah. That's got all my coaching dates. It's actually got Harry there. I've got a picture of me following Harry on bike. So I do on-track coaching as well as the off-track mentoring.
Come down and have a look.
Yeah. And that's all very new, so it's all happening at the moment. And then we're obviously going to start the race team soon, so that will all it'll sort of all promote itself together.
Yeah, and that will cross-pollinate anyway. One into the other, and it's obviously too is that people. One of the things that I found, I've got a personal development coach that I've had for 25 years.
Oh wow!
His name is Dr. Fred Gross.
Yeah.
So he used to be a rabbi in New York, and now he lives over in Christchurch in New Zealand. And I always credit Fred with this line. He taught me more about real estate than anyone else I've ever met, and he knows nothing about it.
Yeah.
And that's
incredible.
That's the gift he gave me.
Yeah.
So, Jed, look, thanks very much for coming in.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
You're a gentleman. Guys, all I can say is we'll put Jed's details up. If any of you are aspiring superbike riders or Valentino Rossi's, Troy Bayliss, aspiring to be, get onto Jed's website, have a look. He's actually done the hard yards. He's had, it's like the old Wayne Gretzky comment, because I love ice hockey.
Yeah.
I've missed 5 times more shots than I've ever scored goals, and he's the highest goal scorer ever. And that's part of this deal, and Jed gets that. So you young guys coming up, I can only tell you that you are the sum of your parts, and your parts, one of the parts that you have in you is your friends. So I believe that your 3 closest friends, or your 3 closest work colleagues, allies, etc., whatever you want to call them, or mentors, go a very long way to making you successful in your chosen field. So thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Jed, thanks again for coming. God bless everybody. Stay great. We'll talk soon.